When the world around you seems loud with problems, delays, disappointments, and unanswered questions, there is one quiet decision that changes everything. Remain unbothered. Not because life is always easy, not because circumstances never challenge you, but because you have discovered a truth greater than appearances. The greatest miracles are born in the invisible long before they become visible. The seed beneath the soil does not struggle to become a tree. It simply follows the law of its own nature. In the same way, every fulfilled desire already exists as a possibility waiting for your acceptance. Your task is not to force life into changing. Your task is to remain faithful to the unseen reality until the visible world catches up. Most people believe they must react to everything. A bill arrives unexpectedly, and fear immediately enters. Someone rejects them, and they assume they are unwanted. An opportunity disappears, and they convince themselves success has passed them by. Every event becomes evidence against their dreams. Yet what if none of these events possess the power they seem to hold? What if they are merely echoes of yesterday's thoughts? If today's circumstances are only delayed reflections of previous assumptions, then reacting emotionally to them only recreates more of the same. The cycle continues because attention feeds experience. The world faithfully mirrors the state you consistently occupy. To stay unbothered is not to ignore life. It is to understand it. It is to recognize that appearances are temporary visitors, not permanent residents. Clouds may cover the sun, but they never extinguish it. In the same way, difficult circumstances may cover your vision for a season, yet they cannot destroy what already exists within consciousness. The unseen remains untouched while the visible rearranges itself. Think of someone standing before a mirror. If they dislike the reflection, they would never attempt to polish the glass, hoping the image changes. They understand the reflection follows the person standing before it. Yet countless people spend their lives trying to polish the mirror of circumstances instead of changing the inner image that produces them. They seek reassurance from the outside while neglecting the creative power within. The outer world has no choice but to reflect the dominant state of consciousness. Change the state, and eventually the reflection changes as well. This is why calmness becomes such extraordinary power. The moment you refuse to panic, you silently declare that your faith rests in something deeper than appearances. You no longer give temporary facts the authority to define permanent truth. You become like the ocean beneath the waves. Storms may disturb the surface, but the depths remain still. That stillness is where creation happens. There is something remarkable about an untroubled mind. It stops interfering with the natural unfolding of events. Imagine planting a seed and digging it up every morning to check whether it has begun growing. Your impatience would prevent the very process you desire. Yet this is exactly what worry does. Every anxious thought asks, has it happened yet? Is it really working? What if nothing changes? These questions are not innocent. They reveal identification with absence rather than fulfillment. Instead, imagine carrying yourself through each day with quiet certainty. You do not pretend the desire exists. You know it. You think from the fulfilled dream instead of thinking about it. There is a tremendous difference. One state longs, the other possesses. One waits, the other lives. One searches endlessly, the other rests in completion. Life responds differently to someone who already feels complete. Their actions become effortless because they are no longer motivated by desperation. They no longer chase validation because they have accepted themselves. They no longer beg for love because they embody it. They no longer fear loss because they recognize abundance as their natural condition. Their peace becomes magnetic. Circumstances begin arranging themselves without struggle because resistance has dissolved. Many people mistake emotional excitement for faith. They believe they must constantly feel intense positivity. But genuine confidence is often quiet. It resembles the certainty you have that tomorrow morning the sun will rise. You do not spend the night affirming it repeatedly out of fear it may not happen. You simply expect it. In the same way, true inner conviction carries no desperation. It rests comfortably in inevitability. This is why remaining unbothered is so transformative. It reveals that you have stopped negotiating with doubt. You are no longer asking permission from circumstances to believe. You have already chosen your inner reality. Everything else becomes a matter of timing. Notice how quickly fear attempts to reclaim your attention. A delay occurs and the mind whispers that nothing is working. A negative conversation happens and suddenly every hopeful assumption feels threatened. Yet every moment offers another opportunity to choose. Will you identify with the temporary seen or with the unseen fulfillment already accepted within? The answer determines not only your emotional experience, but also the future you create. Imagine watching a movie for the second time. Even when the characters encounter difficulty, you remain relaxed because you already know the ending. Their temporary struggle cannot disturb your confidence. Now imagine approaching your own life with similar certainty. You already know the conclusion. The desire has been accepted inwardly. The visible journey may include unexpected twists, but none of them alter the destination. This perspective transforms anxiety into patience. Patience is often misunderstood as passive waiting. In truth, patience is active confidence. It is the refusal to abandon an inner conviction simply because external confirmation has not yet appeared. Every masterpiece takes time to emerge. Every sunrise unfolds gradually. Every season follows its appointed rhythm. Why should the manifestation of your deepest assumptions be different? The mind often believes miracles require extraordinary effort. Yet the greatest transformations usually occur naturally once resistance disappears. Consider how effortlessly your heartbeat continues without your supervision. Consider how your body heals a wound while you sleep. Life constantly demonstrates intelligence beyond conscious control. If such wisdom governs every cell within you, why assume it cannot orchestrate the fulfillment of your desires? There is immense freedom in releasing the need to control every detail. You do not have to determine how opportunities arrive, how people change, or how circumstances reorganize themselves. Your responsibility ends with your inner state. The path belongs to a wisdom greater than logical planning. Often what seems like a setback becomes the very event necessary to open an unexpected door. Looking back over your life, you may notice experiences that initially appeared unfortunate, but later revealed themselves as blessings. At the time, they seemed like endings. Eventually, they became beginnings. This pattern reminds us that appearances cannot be trusted as final judgments. Today's disappointment may quietly contain tomorrow's miracle. An unbothered person understands this deeply. They refuse to label every delay as failure because they know the story is still unfolding. They recognize that life often rearranges itself in ways imagination could never predict. Therefore, they remain open instead of fearful. There is also tremendous power in gratitude before visible evidence appears. Gratitude shifts attention from absence to fulfillment. It tells the subconscious mind that the desire has already become part of your identity. You begin walking differently, speaking differently, expecting differently. Your energy changes because your self-concept changes. Your self-concept quietly governs every experience. People do not merely respond to your words. They respond to the identity you consistently embody. If you see yourself as overlooked, life repeatedly confirms it. If you see yourself as valued, opportunities begin reflecting that expectation. If you identify with abundance, you naturally notice possibilities others overlook. The world cannot consistently contradict the image you hold of yourself. This realization removes blame from external conditions and places creative responsibility back where it belongs. Instead of asking why life keeps happening to you, you begin asking what state you have been occupying. This question empowers rather than condemns. It reminds you that transformation always begins within reach. Every morning becomes an opportunity to select your identity before the world attempts to assign one. Before checking messages, before reviewing problems, before listening to opinions, quietly remember who you have chosen to be. Feel the reality of fulfillment. Carry it into every conversation. Let every action arise naturally from that inner certainty. People may not immediately understand your peace. Some will mistake it for indifference. Others may wonder why you remain calm during uncertainty. They cannot see the invisible foundations supporting your confidence. Yet your tranquility is not based on denial. It is based on deeper understanding. Eventually, evidence begins appearing. Sometimes it arrives gradually through small coincidences. Sometimes it arrives suddenly in ways that seem impossible. A phone call changes everything. An unexpected opportunity appears. Relationships transform. Financial breakthroughs occur. Health improves. Doors open where none previously existed. Observers call these events luck, coincidence, or miracles. But inwardly you recognize them as delayed expressions of an accepted assumption. Even then, remain humble. The purpose is never to impress others. It is to awaken fully to your own creative nature. Every fulfilled desire teaches the same lesson. The invisible precedes the visible. Once this understanding becomes part of your life, fear gradually loses its authority. You begin living differently. You stop chasing signs because you become the sign. You stop begging circumstances to cooperate because you understand they must eventually conform to the state you consistently maintain. You stop measuring progress by appearances because you know creation begins where physical senses cannot reach. There will still be moments when doubt knocks on the door. That is natural. But doubt does not become your identity unless you invite it to stay. You can acknowledge the feeling without surrendering your conviction. You can experience temporary emotion while remaining permanently committed to your chosen reality. This quiet discipline changes everything. Every time you return to certainty instead of fear, you strengthen a new pattern. Every time you refuse to panic, you affirm trust. Every time you choose inner fulfillment over outward evidence, you deepen alignment with the reality you desire. The remarkable thing about miracles is that they often appear ordinary once they arrive. The relationship simply begins. The opportunity naturally presents itself. The healing unfolds. The solution emerges. Looking back, people forget how impossible it once seemed. What was once called impossible becomes inevitable in memory. This is why staying unbothered is not merely emotional advice. It is a way of living that protects the creative process. It keeps you aligned with the version of yourself that already possesses what you seek. Instead of constantly restarting through fear, you remain established in confidence. Your imagination is not given to torment you with impossible dreams. It is given to reveal possibilities waiting for acceptance. Every noble desire carries within itself the potential for fulfillment. Otherwise, it would never awaken your heart so deeply. The invitation is not to wonder whether it is possible. The invitation is to become inwardly familiar with its reality until it feels natural. Naturalness is the secret. When fulfillment feels ordinary within, extraordinary changes begin appearing without. You stop trying to convince yourself because belief has matured into knowing. You stop forcing emotions because peace replaces effort. You stop living from hope alone because certainty quietly takes its place. So whatever stands before you today, refuse to surrender your inner state to temporary appearances. Let others react if they choose. Let fear make its arguments. Let circumstances display their convincing performance. You know something they have forgotten. Every visible condition is temporary. Every accepted inner reality seeks expression. Every calm moment strengthens the unseen foundation of tomorrow's experience. Walk through your days with gentle confidence. Smile without needing evidence. Rest without demanding immediate proof. Continue imagining the life already complete within you. Speak from fulfillment. Think from abundance. Feel from love. Live from certainty. The unseen is already moving in ways your senses cannot yet measure. Quiet transformations are taking place beyond your awareness. Invisible doors are opening. Hidden connections are forming. Solutions are arranging themselves. What appears still may actually be preparing for sudden movement. Remain unbothered, not because nothing is happening, but because everything is happening beneath the surface. Trust the unseen process with the same confidence that night trusts the arrival of dawn. The dawn never asks permission to rise. It simply appears when its hour has come. In the same way, every accepted vision carries its own appointed moment of expression. Until then, protect your peace. Guard your imagination. Remain faithful to the reality within. The miracle is not struggling to find you. It is already finding its way through the path your unwavering confidence has prepared. The moment you begin to understand this, you also begin to notice how much of your former life was shaped by unnecessary resistance. There were countless moments when you believed you had to struggle simply because everyone around you believed struggle was the only path. You were taught that if something valuable was coming into your life, it had to be earned through endless worry, endless effort, and endless uncertainty. Yet life itself constantly contradicts this belief. Flowers bloom without anxiety. Rivers reach the ocean without forcing every turn. The stars never question whether they belong in the sky. Nature moves with confidence because it follows its own law. You are part of that same intelligence, yet you have been conditioned to distrust it. Every anxious thought is an attempt to control what does not require your control. Every fearful prediction is a declaration that appearances are greater than imagination. Yet ask yourself honestly, how many of your worries actually became reality? And among those that did, how many were made heavier because of the fear you carried beforehand? Worry has never improved tomorrow. It is only stolen today. Peace, however, has a strange way of allowing solutions to reveal themselves naturally. There is a hidden confidence that grows every time you choose stillness over panic. At first, it feels unfamiliar because the mind has become addicted to solving imaginary problems. It believes that constant thinking equals progress. But there comes a moment when you realize that endless analysis often creates more confusion than clarity. The answers you seek frequently arrive during quiet walks, peaceful evenings, moments of gratitude, or unexpected inspiration. They come when the mind stops demanding and begins allowing. You have probably experienced this before. You searched desperately for the answer to a problem and found nothing. Then you forgot about it for a while, relaxed, laughed with friends, or fell asleep, and suddenly the answer appeared effortlessly. That was not an accident. It was a glimpse into the creative process. The moment resistance dissolved, wisdom had room to express itself. This is why remaining unbothered is not laziness. It is intelligent cooperation with the deeper currents of life. Instead of exhausting yourself by wrestling with every circumstance, you align yourself with the invisible source from which every circumstance eventually emerges. People often underestimate the influence of the conversations they have with themselves. Long before they speak to another person, they have already repeated hundreds of silent sentences within their own minds. Nothing ever works for me. Things always go wrong. I'm running out of time. These statements may seem harmless because no one else hears them, but consciousness hears every word. The subconscious does not argue. It accepts repetition as instruction. Now imagine replacing those silent conversations with entirely different assumptions. Imagine waking each morning with the quiet expectation that life is supporting you in ways you cannot yet see. Imagine assuming that every delay contains hidden preparation. Imagine believing that every encounter is leading you towards something greater. These are not empty affirmations if they are felt deeply. They become lenses through which you experience reality. Soon, your attention begins noticing opportunities that fear previously ignored. You meet people you might never have approached before. You recognize possibilities hidden inside ordinary moments. Coincidences increase because your awareness expands. It is not that life suddenly began helping you. It is that you finally became available to receive what was always present. There is an extraordinary difference between forcing and allowing. Forcing is rooted in the belief that you are separate from the power that creates reality. Allowing comes from knowing that you are already connected to it. One struggles endlessly against the current. The other moves with it. Consider the archer releasing an arrow. Once it leaves the bow, chasing after it cannot make it travel faster. The work has already been done. In the same way, once you have accepted an inner reality, there comes a point where your only responsibility is to remain faithful to it. Constantly questioning whether it will happen is like grabbing the arrow in midair. Many people unknowingly delay their own breakthroughs because they keep returning to the old identity. They imagine success during meditation, but spend the rest of the day expecting failure. They feel abundance for 10 minutes, but complain about lack for 10 hours. They visualize loving relationships, but secretly assume rejection whenever someone fails to reply quickly. The dominant state always outweighs occasional moments of inspiration. The invitation is not to perform occasional acts of faith. The invitation is to live from faith so naturally that it becomes your ordinary way of seeing the world. Notice how children imagine without effort. They become explorers, kings, artists, inventors, or heroes without asking whether it is realistic. For those moments, the imagined experience feels completely real. They are not pretending in the ordinary sense. They are entering another state of consciousness. Somewhere along the way, adulthood teaches people to distrust imagination. Even though imagination remains the birthplace of every invention, every masterpiece, every successful business, every loving relationship, and every transformed life. Everything visible once existed only as an unseen possibility. Every building was once a mental picture. Every song was once silent. Every achievement began as an invisible assumption inside someone's awareness. Why should your own dreams follow a different law? When you truly understand this, comparison begins disappearing from your life. You stop measuring your journey against someone else's timeline because you recognize that everyone is expressing the assumptions they have accepted. Another person's success is not evidence of your limitation. It is evidence that possibilities exist. Instead of feeling threatened, you become inspired. Envy quietly dissolves because you no longer believe blessings are scarce. The universe is not operating with a limited supply of opportunity. Another person's abundance cannot diminish yours any more than another candle's flame can reduce the light of your own. Infinite intelligence is not divided. It is expressed individually through countless lives. The unbothered person walks into every room carrying an invisible atmosphere. Others may notice it without understanding its source. They seem grounded during uncertainty. They remain hopeful while others complain. They smile without needing perfect conditions. Their confidence is contagious because it comes from within instead of depending upon external approval. This does not mean they never experience disappointment. They do. It does not mean they never feel sadness or frustration. They do. The difference is that they refuse to build an identity around temporary emotions. Feelings pass through them instead of defining them. They acknowledge them, learn from them, and gently return to the inner reality they have chosen. That return is the secret. Not perfection, not constant positivity. Simply returning again and again to the fulfilled state until it becomes more familiar than doubt. Every return strengthens a new pathway within consciousness. Eventually, peace requires less effort than anxiety once did. Faith becomes more natural than fear. Gratitude becomes easier than complaint. Confidence replaces hesitation because you have practiced it repeatedly. Imagine standing before two doors every morning. One is labeled appearance. The other is labeled reality. The first door invites you to believe only what your senses report. The second invites you to trust what your imagination has already accepted. Most people enter the first door automatically because it feels familiar. Yet those who experience profound transformation consistently choose the second. Their outer lives eventually begin reflecting that choice in ways that seem miraculous to observers. Careers shift unexpectedly. Relationships heal after years of distance. Financial opportunities emerge from unlikely places. Creative inspiration flows with unusual clarity. Health improves beyond expectation. The visible changes appear sudden, yet inwardly they began long before anyone else could see them. This is why you must protect your inner conversations with greater care than you protect your possessions. Words spoken repeatedly become assumptions. Assumptions become expectations. Expectations quietly organize perception, behavior, and experience. The harvest is always faithful to the seed. There will always be voices encouraging you to doubt. Some come from other people, some come from old memories, some come from habits formed years ago. They may sound convincing because they have been repeated so often. But repetition does not create truth. It only creates familiarity. You are free to become familiar with a different story. Perhaps you have carried the belief that life is difficult. Ask yourself whether that belief has been serving you. Perhaps you have assumed that happiness always slips away. Perhaps you have accepted that opportunities belong to other people. None of these ideas are permanent unless you continue giving them life through attention. The beautiful thing about consciousness is that it is never trapped by yesterday. Every moment offers a fresh beginning. Right now, you can decide to identify with peace instead of struggle. Right now, you can accept yourself as already worthy instead of endlessly seeking proof. Right now, you can begin thinking from fulfillment instead of toward it. The world may not change instantly, but your relationship to it changes immediately. That shift is the beginning of every miracle. So as you leave this moment, remember one simple truth. Your greatest power has never been in controlling the world around you. It has always been in mastering the world within you. Refuse to let temporary appearances steal your peace. Refuse to let fear convince you that delay means denial. Every moment you remain calm, every time you choose faith over panic, every time you return to the feeling of your wish already fulfilled, you are planting seeds that life cannot help but bring into visible form. Walk through your days with quiet confidence. Let others be shaken by circumstances if they choose, but let your heart remain anchored in certainty. Trust that what you have accepted inwardly is already taking shape in ways your eyes cannot yet perceive. The unseen is never idle. Even when nothing appears to be changing, everything is moving into perfect alignment behind the scenes. Your miracle does not arrive because you chase it. It arrives because you become the person who no longer doubts its existence. Stay peaceful when others are anxious. Stay grateful when others complain. Stay faithful when others give up. For the world always reflects the state you consistently occupy. And perhaps one day, what once seemed impossible will stand before you as your everyday reality. You will look back at the moments you were tempted to worry, and you will realize that the breakthrough was already on its way. The doors were already opening. The answers were already unfolding. Life was already responding to the quiet conviction you chose to hold. So leave here with this decision firmly planted in your heart. Asterisk, stay unbothered. Stay faithful. Stay aligned with the vision you have accepted within. Because the moment you stop allowing circumstances to define your future is the moment your future begins to transform your circumstances. And that is where miracles are born.